Hello, my name is Jeremy, and this is the True Crime Chronicles channel. The Amato family, composed of Chad and Margaret Amato, resided in the tranquil small town of Chilota in Florida, which boasts a population slightly exceeding 2,000. Their home was a large dwelling positioned on a piece of land a bit more extensive than 1 hectare. In 1986, Chad and Margaret Amato entered into matrimony. Margaret had been previously wed and had a 3-year-old son named Jason at that time. Chad took Jason under his wing, treating him as his biological child. The year following their marriage, the Amatos welcomed a son, Cody, and after another 2 years, they had their 3rd child, Grant. At 59, Chad Amato had dedicated his career to pharmacy. He also had a fervent interest in computers, priding himself on being a self-educated expert in the field. Margaret Amato, aged 61, held a position as a chief manager in a healthcare firm. She had a profound affection for horses. In 2009, she rescued and trained a racehorse, Lady, who, despite frequently bucking her off during training sessions, was deeply cherished by Margaret. Lady's death in 2018 did not deter Margaret from continuing her equine interests with other horses, which served as a solace for her, aiding in distraction from life's troubles and stress alleviation. In 2018, Chad and Margaret Amato made the decision to acquire a property in Tennessee, envisioning it as their retirement haven. Meanwhile, their eldest offspring, Jason, had already established his life in Winter Springs, Florida, earning a living as a manager in the mortgage loan sector. Cody and Grant, the younger siblings, had concluded their academic journeys, graduating from a medical college with flying colors. Both earned medical degrees and secured positions in a healthcare facility in Orlando, Florida. The brothers harbored aspirations of achieving substantial financial success and eagerly anticipated the day their parents would retire to Tennessee, which would allow them to reside in the Chilota family home, a symbol of opulence. Their ambitions included the acquisition of high-end cars and the enjoyment of their newfound independence. The year 2018 marked a pivotal moment for Cody and Grant as they intended to start their specialization as assistants in anesthesiology. Cody embarked on this path with success. However, Grant encountered an obstacle as he did not pass the entry examinations required for the course. In June 2018, Grant Amato faced termination from his hospital position due to allegations of misappropriating pain medications and the improper administration of drugs to patients. While Grant asserted that he merely increased pain medication dosages for patients who were inadequately relaxed rather than stealing them, the situation led to his arrest. Nevertheless, he wasn't formally charged, but was relieved from his duties and returned to his parents' residence in Chilota. The aftermath of losing his job plunged Grant into a severe depressive state. His physical appearance drastically changed. He lost a considerable amount of weight and resembled a spectral figure, characterized by dark circles under his eyes and pallid skin. Grant's life became reclusive, spending most of his time indoors, disconnected from the outside world. His routine involved sleeping during the day and immersing himself in computer games at night, often live streaming these sessions. In these streams, he portrayed an image of success, claiming to live in an opulent house and owning a BMW. However, the reality starkly contrasted this facade. At 29, Grant was jobless, residing with his parents, and driving an older model Honda Accord. Grant Amato encountered a Bulgarian model named Sylvie Venceslavova, known to him simply as Sylvie, on an adult website. He became engrossed in her performances, spending hours each night watching her through a webcam, with expenses amounting to around $600 nightly. As their interaction progressed, Grant began lavishing Sylvie with gifts, including clothes and adult toys. He perceived her as his girlfriend, despite her not reciprocating his affection. However, she did acknowledge his generous gestures. Unbeknownst to Sylvie, Grant was not transparent about his financial status. In fact, he resorted to pilfering funds from his father and brother to sustain his expenditures. Over a 3-month span, Grant squandered $200,000 on these virtual engagements, even going as far as taking out a loan. Occasionally, he would send videos to Sylvie, pleading for complimentary videos in return. Eventually, Grant's financial predicament came to light within his family. He misled them by claiming the money was used to boost his profile as a gamer on a live streaming platform. Despite these revelations, his family stood by him. His father shouldered the responsibility of settling his son's debts and also bore the legal expenses pertaining to the case involving Grant's theft of medication. In December 2018, there was a brief glimmer of hope in Grant Amato's troubled life when his brother Cody extended an invitation for a trip to Japan, generously covering all costs. This excursion brought a moment of joy to the brothers, hinting at a positive turn in Grant's life. Yet the familial harmony was short-lived as tensions within the Amato household intensified post-trip. Chad Amato, the father, frequently clashed with Grant over his unemployment and apparent reliance on the family. On December 19, 2018, following another heated disagreement, Grant vacated the family home. He conveyed a message to his mother, Margaret, expressing his exhaustion with the situation and his intent to independently resolve his issues. Concerned, Margaret contacted the police to report her 29-year-old son missing. It was later unearthed that Grant had sought refuge at his Aunt Doni Amato's residence, located roughly 40 miles from Chulota. There, Grant's routine involved spending his days asleep and nights engaged with the computer. A startling discovery was made by Grant's aunt when she noticed an unauthorized transaction from her bank account to an adult website. She promptly notified Chad Amato of this revelation. In a bid to prevent further legal complications, Chad urged Doni not to involve the police and reimbursed her for the misappropriated funds. During this exchange, Chad confided in his sister about the substantial debts he had accrued due to Grant's financial recklessness. He lamented that he would have to extend his working years significantly to repay the loans. On the 22nd of December 2018, a family intervention took place. Grant's parents, Chad and Margaret Amato, along with his brothers Jason and Cody, visited Grant at Aunt Donnie's house. They confronted Grant about his urgent need for help, persuading him to attend a rehabilitation center. The purpose of this intervention was to address Grant's addiction to pornography, and he was enrolled in a 2-month treatment program. During Grant's stay at the rehabilitation center, Chad Amato took a proactive step in resolving the situation. He reached out to Sylvia, the model with whom Grant had been interacting, and revealed the true extent of his son's actions and the financial burdens he had incurred. Sylvia, upon learning of these circumstances, assured Chad that she would cease all communication with Grant. In an effort to further mitigate the situation, Chad cleared all data from Grant's computer and secured it with a new password, ensuring Grant would not be able to access it upon his return. The cost of the rehabilitation program, a substantial $15,000, was entirely funded by Grant's brother, Cody Amato. However, Grant's commitment to the program was short-lived. After just 2 weeks, he chose to voluntarily leave the facility and return to his family home. On the 5th of January 2019, a pivotal family meeting occurred when Chad Amato took his son Grant to a pizzeria. The purpose of this meeting was to lay down a set of strict conditions that Grant needed to adhere to if he wished to continue residing in the family home. Chad had prepared a list of handwritten rules that encompassed the following stipulations. Grant was required to cease his habit of staying up late at night using the computer. He must end all forms of communication with Sylvia, the individual he met online. He needed to actively seek employment. It was imperative for him to start repaying the debts he owed to his parents. He should pursue medical assistance if it was deemed necessary. These rules were non-negotiable, and Chad made it clear that any failure to comply or violation of these terms would result in Grant being either expelled from the Amato household or potentially enlisted in military service. Grant, acknowledging the gravity of the situation, agreed to abide by these newly established rules. However, the events that unfolded subsequently would irrevocably alter the lives of the Amato family members. On the 25th of January 2019, Cody Amato's unexpected absence from his workplace at the Orlando Medical Center sparked concern among his colleagues. Known for his impeccable attendance record, Cody had not missed a single day of work in 5 years, making his absence particularly alarming. Seeking answers, his colleagues reached out to one of Cody's close friends, inquiring about his whereabouts. The friend was unable to provide Cody's current location, but shared a crucial detail. The previous evening, Cody's father had called him, requesting his immediate return home after work. Given the well-known troubles within the Amato family, Cody's colleagues were deeply worried about his safety. To ensure his well-being, they decided to involve law enforcement. They contacted the local police, requesting that an officer be dispatched to the Amato family home in Chulota for a welfare check. Upon arrival, the police saw Cody's car in the driveway. The officers attempted to make contact with someone inside by ringing the doorbell, knocking on the door, and even using the siren of their patrol car, but there was no response from inside. The police also tried calling all mobile phones belonging to the Amato family, but no one answered. After getting permission from their superiors, the police decided to enter the house by breaking open a side door. What they found inside filled them with real horror. In the connecting area between the home gym and the garage, the body of Cody Amato was found in a fetal position. He had a gunshot wound below his eye, and the gun was located about 5 feet from his body. In the kitchen, Chad Amato was found lying on his back on the floor. He had suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head. A holster with a pistol was attached to his thigh. Margaret Amato, the mother, was discovered in her office, slumped over her computer desk. She had been shot once in the head. There were no indications of forced entry into the Amato residence, and all valuable items appeared to be untouched. Grant Amato was nowhere to be found in the house, and his mobile phone was switched off. The next day, on January 26th, detectives located Grant Amato at a hotel in Orlando where he had spent the night. During the search of his hotel room, they found several credit cards belonging to his brother Cody and his father Chad. Grant Amato was summoned for questioning at the police station, where he voluntarily cooperated with the investigators. In the course of the interrogation, he acknowledged his deep involvement in computer gaming. Grant aired grievances about his family dynamics, portraying his father, Chad, as a domineering and abusive figure who, according to him, inflicted physical violence upon him. He also disclosed conflicts with his mother, Margaret, and his brother, Jason, but clarified that Chad never physically abused Cody. Grant confessed to having used a substantial amount of his father's money for interactions with the model, Sylvia, and expressed remorse over these expenditures. Throughout the 3-hour interrogation, Grant elaborated on various aspects of his family life. Notably, during this entire time, he did not inquire about the well-being or status of his parents and brother. After questioning Grant Amato for 3 hours, the detectives decided to introduce photographs from the crime scene into the interrogation. This action visibly altered Grant's emotional demeanor. He began to cry. Despite this emotional response, he maintained his stance, continuing to assert that he had no knowledge of who might have committed the murders of his family members. In a dramatic turn, Jason, Grant's older brother, was brought into the interrogation room. He earnestly implored Grant to disclose the truth. However, Grant chose to remain silent in the face of his brother's pleas. Jason's whereabouts on the day of the crime, January 24th, were accounted for with a solid alibi. He was at his workplace until 6 p.m. that evening, following which he went to dine with his longtime friend, Christina, and her 2 daughters. He spent the entire evening in their company. The next morning, Jason continued his routine by dropping Christina's daughters off at school before proceeding to his workplace. According to Grant Amato's account of the events on January 24th, he was at home all day preparing for a job interview. The situation escalated when his father, Chad, returned from work and discovered that Grant was still communicating with Sylvia via Twitter using his mother's mobile phone. Grant maintained that his mother had permitted him to use her phone, even though this communication was against the family rules set for him. An argument ensued during which Chad grabbed Grant by the shirt and instructed him to leave the house. Grant then packed his things and left, with his father following him out. They had a prolonged conversation on the driveway, lasting about an hour and a half. During this conversation, Chad handed Grant a credit card, which he later used to pay for a hotel room. Grant's account continued with the arrival of his brother Cody at the family home around midnight. Grant briefly spoke with Cody, bid farewell to his family, and loaded his belongings into his car. By approximately 12 a.m., he drove to a local grocery store, where he used free Wi-Fi to check the directions for his job interview scheduled the next morning. He eventually fell asleep in his car. Waking up around 7 a.m., Grant attended his job interview and initially planned to return to his parents' house afterwards. However, upon seeing police cars and a news van near the house, he chose not to go there. Instead, he headed to a local bakery where he sat at a table and read the major news headlines about the shooting at his parents' residence. Despite Grant's insistence on his innocence, nobody seemed to believe him. Cody's girlfriend, Sloan Young, disclosed that Grant had stolen approximately $60,000 from his brother. She also stated that Cody had confessed to her once that he was afraid of Grant, who was capable of criminal actions. On January 28, 2019, Grant Amato was arrested and faced charges of first-degree intentional murder. He did not admit guilt and was detained with a bail set at $750,000, an amount he was unable to secure using his parents' assets. The trial commenced on July 23, 2019, with Grant facing the potential of the death penalty. The prosecution's argument hinged on the fact that there were no signs of forced entry into the Amato home, and all valuable items, including gaming consoles, TVs, computers, and jewelry, were found intact. Digital forensic experts scrutinized the electronic devices from the Amato residence. Their analysis yielded a timeline of the events on January 24th. Grant was at home all day with his mother, Margaret. Her computer's last activity was at 4:44 p.m., leading the prosecution to surmise that Margaret was shot by Grant around 4:45 p.m. while she was at her desk. Chad Amato's health app on his smartphone registered 67 steps at 5:25 p.m., likely from his car to the house. Subsequently, there was a 27-minute period of inactivity on his phone, indicating that Chad was shot shortly after entering the house. The initial shot didn't prove fatal, evidenced by a blood trail showing he tried to crawl towards the phone before being shot a second time by Grant. At 5:52 p.m., Chad's phone was unlocked, and its screen lock settings were altered. Grant stayed in the house for over 4 hours, awaiting his brother Cody. Cody left his workplace at 9:45 p.m. and headed home. Upon entering, he was instantly shot dead. Grant inserted a flash drive into his computer at 11:32 p.m., containing 600 photos and videos of Sylvia. This flash drive was later found in Grant's pocket. Using his father's fingerprint, Grant accessed Chad's banking app at 12:08 a.m. He also tried to enter a banking app on Cody's phone, but didn't know the password, attempting a reset. At 2:54 a.m., Grant connected to the Wi-Fi at a grocery store. At 3:06 a.m., he paid $600 to regain access to his account on the adult website where Sylvia worked. Throughout the interrogation and subsequent trial, Grant Amato maintained his narrative, attempting to persuade everyone that it was Cody who had murdered their parents before taking his own life, supposedly evidenced by the gun found near him. However, the prosecution presented a contrasting theory. The prosecutor argued that Grant had deliberately placed the gun holster with the pistol on Chad's right thigh to simulate a struggle between Chad and Cody. This arrangement was scrutinized because it was a cross-draw holster, which, for a right-handed person like Chad, would customarily be worn on the left thigh. Witnesses who knew Chad testified that he never carried a weapon while at home, further casting doubt on this scenario. The detectives believed that the bodies of Chad and Cody had been repositioned post-mortem. The entry wound on the back of Chad's head suggested he should have been found face down, yet he was discovered face up, implying his body had been flipped. Additionally, the presence of two distinct blood pools near Cody's body raised further suspicions. The larger pool near his ankles and a smaller one under his head, where the fatal shot had occurred, indicated that his body too had been shifted after death. A key element in the investigation was the finding that none of the 3 pistols discovered at the crime scene were used in the killings. This revelation led to questions about the actual weapon used in the commission of the murders. The forensic expert's analysis contradicted Grant Amato's claim that his brother Cody had committed suicide. Evidence suggested that Cody was shot from a distance, not at close range as would be expected in a self-inflicted shooting. In contrast, both Margaret and Chad were determined to have been shot at close range. Adding to the complexities of the case, a friend of both Cody and Grant reported a missing gun from his house. Although he didn't immediately notice its absence, he eventually reported it to the police upon realizing it was gone. The investigator noted that the characteristics of the missing gun matched the description of the murder weapon. However, since the gun was never found, this link could not be definitively confirmed. Further insights into Grant's motive emerged, revealing his deep-seated resentment towards his family for restricting his communication with Sylvia, with whom he believed he had a serious relationship. This resentment was highlighted in the case against Grant, particularly through a letter he wrote to his online friends, a group of 6 men with whom he interacted in a group chat involving Sylvia. This letter was penned after Grant's release from the rehabilitation center and before the murders. In his letter, Grant admitted to fabricating stories about his life. Contrary to what he had claimed, he was living with his parents, not a professional gamer, unemployed, and did not own a BMW. He expressed his frustration towards his family on several fronts. Primarily, he was disgruntled about being coerced into the rehabilitation program. However, his utmost anger was directed towards his father for reaching out to Sylvia and disclosing the truth about Grant's situation. In the letter, Grant lamented, "My heart is breaking into pieces, realizing how meaningless my life is without her." In court, Grant's older brother, Jason Amato, testified that their family was close-knit until Grant started having work-related problems. He emphasized that their father had never physically harmed the brothers or their mother and never verbally abused them. Grant Amato's defense team argued that the detectives quickly focused their investigation on Grant without seriously considering other suspects. According to the defense attorney, all statements made by the prosecution were mere speculation. The defense also noted that at 23:51 on January 25th, Cody sent Chad a message saying, "Dad, delete the Blink app for the third time." At 0:31 on January 25th, the Blink app was deleted from Chad's phone. The defense claimed that Grant had no motive to kill his parents and brother, as he got along well with his mother and was very close to his brother. Additionally, the family always provided him with money when he requested it. No physical evidence directly linked Grant Amato to the crime, including the DNA of his family members or the murder weapon. Additionally, Grant's DNA was not found on any of the victims. The defense highlighted that Grant had no access to firearms, as he had previously sold his own to finance his interactions with Sylvia. His father, Chad, did own a gun, which was kept in a safe, but Grant was not privy to the combination. Despite the absence of physical evidence, on July 31st, 2019, the jury convicted Grant Amato of first-degree premeditated murder. In reaching their verdict, the jury considered various factors, including Grant's age, his background as a medical assistant, his academic achievements in college, and his dedication to a profession centered around providing medical care. Following the conviction on August 12, 2019, Grant Amato was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. If you liked this story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Don't forget to like and share your opinion in the comments. This is Jeremy. See you in the next video.